Okay, it's Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. This is a Curriculum and Learning Committee meeting. We're at the School District of Menominee Falls Board of Education. There's a possibility that a quorum of the full membership of the board may be in attendance at board committee meetings, including virtual meetings. There will be no full board action taken at any board committee meeting. Only members of the committee may vote on any item on the agenda. A live broadcast will be streamed on the school district YouTube page. To watch the recorded meeting, please visit the School District of Menominee Falls YouTube site. School District of Menominee Falls, we're at the conference room, 3344, 3345 on Pilgrim Road, and it is 6:01. And the meeting was properly posted, correct?
It was, we're trying to determine if we are actually.
Oh, we're not live, great, I won't do that.
I just like to do it
to kind of like chill,
It's not popping up.
bring the room down on the top.
Go back to home for a second. Oh,
Oh, it says,
it says live.
there we go,
Okay.
now it popped up.
Okay, so I don't have to do it. Okay, well, just to reiterate, we're at a Curriculum and Learning Committee meeting. It's February 26th, 2025, and the meeting was properly posted, and so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:01. It's still 6:01. So meeting minutes. You know what? I need to look at that real quick. Everybody look at meeting minutes? I didn't, let me just peruse it real quick. Any changes or? Okay, do I have a motion to approve meeting minutes?
A motion.
I can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And no opposed. Okay, and we're headed right into discussion item, elementary counseling curriculum review and pilot updates.
So I'll get us started tonight for this, and then I'm gonna hand it over to my colleagues to my right. This is just kind of a review of what we've done, so thanks for having us here again tonight as we head into the piloting process, like we talked about at our last one when we did the standard improvement. So there's a couple of slides that I've got, and I'll just be kind of summarizing some of the work, and then I'm gonna hand it over to the counselors too. So let's go down there. This is kind of a review. One of the things we wanted to just go through again and just connect all this stuff together. The curriculums we looked at are tied into the standards that were approved for the board to utilize, and those are the same ones that are utilized not only for our state of Wisconsin, but nationwide by the majority of the states in the country. So we adopted these standards. They are based upon the mindsets and behavior standards through the state of Wisconsin's approved guidance counselor curriculum standards. So if we go to the next slide, just kind of an update on where we're at in the process overall. As a review, we did the standards adoption, and we've been going through and talking with various curriculum companies, or just companies in general, really to try to identify and narrow down what are some of the best ones that fit our needs the most. We went through a lot of different versions, a lot of different companies that are offering. We also took a look at our current curriculum that we're utilizing. But really our goal was to try to narrow the scope down to about 3. 2 or 3 was our ideal. And we've kind of gone back and forth between 2 and 3, but I think it's gonna be best if we just take a look at 3 because we really wanna get a good feel for what was gonna work for us. And then our ultimate goal will be to adopt in the fall of 2025. Okay, at this point, then we'll go to the next, and this is where I'm gonna just hand it over. We had all these different curriculums that we went through. The counselors have done a very, very great job of narrowing down the scope of what they had a chance and what we've had offered. And you'll see there's one on there that looks familiar. It's what we currently utilize in second step. You'll see one that's called Purposeful People. And Purposeful People is actually tied into what we use at the middle school in Character Strong. It's an affiliated version of what's that curriculum is utilized. And then the last one on there is Wayfinder. So I'll let them talk through some of that process, and I'll hand it over to you guys.
Right, so I mean, there's, in one moment it feels like there's a lot of stuff out there, and then the next moment it feels like there's almost nothing out there when we're looking to make a change with our curriculum. So these were the ones that we ended up really kind of trying to pick through to see what will suit our needs. So we were looking at topics that were taught with each, how many lessons they provided, cost, age range for what they're teaching, availability of tier 2 or tier 3, additional, resources, thank you.
And parental resources.
Yes, so we kind of looked through all those and then we narrowed ourselves down to 3 that we'd really like to see more. So Wayfinder, Purposeful People, and Move This World are the 3 that we thought, just when we looked through all of the different options, might fit our needs. Second step is where we're at now. We've been using Second Step since the 2014-2015 school year. Right now, we are at a place where we are utilizing a subscription, so it's costing us just a little bit shy of it could cost us about $3,000 a year per building. One of the issues that we face is it does only have 20 lessons, so it's not filling a school year. The topics are pretty broad, you can see them there, but growth mindset and goal setting, emotion management, empathy and kindness, problem solving. But some of the difficulties we're facing with it are really low student engagement. Our students will outwardly tell us that it's boring, they don't really want to, they're disengaged. Like I said, the number of lessons is too short. And really, we've seen that the programs are not allowing kids to practice the skills that we're instructing on. It's a lot of discussion, but not a lot of practice. So they're not getting that chance to really become practical, engaged, hands-on with their skills. So that's one of the things that I think we're looking for in a new curriculum, is that chance for kids to really engage with and practice the skills.
So remind me once again, how many lessons do you guys need? Is it 30?
So it depends on the day of the week, because we have a different number of Mondays and Fridays, but 30-ish, 30
Okay.
to 37 I think is kind of our range.
30 to 37, okay.
Yep.
And there are other things that take up some of the time
Yes,
for
yes.
us here too.
Yeah.
So there's different lessons they do on,
Careers, child
Careers,
protection,
Child protection unit,
and
and then
then,
sometimes for every week, the AOTA committee might have us do a special
Yeah.
lesson that has to do with that.
Sure.
Is that involved in these?
No.
Okay, that's separate.
Yes.
But if anything, you want to be able to remove lessons that
Yes.
you don't need, not trying
Yes.
to.
Try to fill in gaps.
Yes.
Right.
As many as we can fill.
And then the consistency there too.
Yeah.
is-
yes,
And then keeping in mind some of the stuff is statute related, where we're required by law to do it, so that's part of the.
Right.
Child safety.
So one of the new ones that we are looking into is called Move This World. And its cost is approximately $4,500 a year per building. It is aligned with our standards. This one has 38 lessons, which is really nice because that does give us some of that wiggle room to kind of take some out if we don't feel like it's applicable to our students or community. So we have some wiggle room with that. Lesson topics include self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. But overall, the rationale that we really like this is that it is a kinesthetic learning style. It's more engaging for the kids, there's different methods of teaching the lessons, there's videos, there's activities where they have to get up and get moving, there's discussion questions, it kind of hits all spectrums. There's also family resources, there's a family portal where families will all have access to go online and gain those resources, that's included in the cost. Also included in the cost is access to tier 2 lessons, which we can also pull those if we needed additional lessons to the 38, if there were other things we wanted to look at, but we could also use those in small groups or one-on-one settings if students needed additional tools or strategies. And then it also does involve and include adult wellness experiences for staff. So all staff members would also have access to an online portal where they can also get resources. Oh, I'm sorry, I passed it up here.
yeah,
Sorry.
we don't have things, so sorry.
I was like, wait, why is this sitting in front of me? So we also printed off for all of you, a copy, and I'll just bring all of them over right away. These are just copies of the scope and sequence for the 3 curriculums that we are looking at. So you can really see the breakdown of the topics and the lessons. So, I don't know if you printed these or if you have access to them.
No, I looked
Oh,
at it, but
so
thank
this
you,
is
I
Move This
appreciate it.
World, that's the one I
Yeah.
just talked about.
Alright,
And then this will be purpose-built people
Okay.
and Wi-Fi.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was trying to like consolidate as fast as possible.
information.
Not good for 55
I like that.
Next time I should bring like little magnifying glasses. I know, I was like, printed it, I was like,
You know, as we're getting all that passed out, it occurs to me, it's been a while since the counselors have all been here. Would it be helpful to like do quick introductions and what school you work at as well?
Sure.
Okay, that'd be.
And plus for the public too, so.
I'm Kristen Lotta, I am at Shady Lane.
I'm Kara Baker, I'm at Riverside.
Nicole Backlars, I'm at Valley View.
Okay.
And Nellie Farrell, I'm at Ben Franklin, I'm the full-time, and then we also have a part-time, Katie Capers, who couldn't be here tonight.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody in there?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good point.
Wayfinder is the one I was looking at, struggled a little bit in connecting with the rep, so I don't have quite as much information. But again, it aligns with our standards, about 28 lessons. Lesson topics are self-awareness, adaptability, empathy, collaboration, agency, focus. The reason why we were thinking this one might be a good one to look at is they do give access to all tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. It comes with the whole program, right? So if we would have things for entire classroom guidance lessons, and then the tier 2 for students that needed a little extra support, and tier 3 for those, small percentage of students that really need some extra. And then their big focus is really on leadership and life skills, so we liked that part of it too. So a lot of, there's not as much listed in the paperwork that you have there. We didn't get any objectives for the lessons per se, but I do have another meeting set up with that rep if we do choose to pilot that one, and she can hopefully fill in some of those gaps as well.
Sure. And then did you notice any of the application styles that are different for the lecture versus the kinesthetic and?
That one had a lot of different options. They did have workbooks, which we were not, and that's part of the reason we're like, nope, we're not gonna do Wayfinder, because we were, with the new ELA curriculum, they already have these big workbooks, we're like, we're not doing workbooks. And then she came back with, well, you don't have to do workbooks, they have a whole online platform, and a lot of different, the lessons that I've looked at have a lot of different, sit and get some partner work, some group, so it did have a variety of different
Some
things.
worksheets too, I think.
Some worksheets, yes.
Yeah, we felt like they needed that.
Yep, and that all could then be printed off from the platform rather than having a workbook. So we weren't interested in workbooks.
So I see the price of it.
Yeah.
I
Right.
know, I love that.
And
I don't
when
think
they
the workbooks, does that go down?
Right, so when she first
Double.
talked to me and I said, we're not interested because the workbooks aren't our thing, and she's like, well, you don't have to do the workbooks, and then she's like, well, that would really bring the price down, it's probably less than purposeful people or character strike. So then when she came back with that quote, I was a little confused, so I will definitely.
Follow up on that one.
She
clarify.
also
Yeah.
said that there's 20 districts in the state of Wisconsin that currently use it.
And we haven't, yeah.
We haven't.
I did go back and look on their website, and like Minneapolis Public Schools, Chicago Public Schools, you have this, Houston, a bunch of schools in Texas, a little bit bigger in the south, she had said, but yeah, Minneapolis, and I have an email out to some of the, couple counselors in the Minneapolis Public Schools to ask how they feel about it. So we've been trying to do that too,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
reaching out to school
Yeah.
districts that use this curriculum to ask how, are the students engaged, do they enjoy it, is it meeting your needs? So, still, hoping to gather some more information on that as well.
Okay. I just wanna make sure we get our bang for our buck.
Right.
Yeah. We all kind of, when we looked at that, we're like,
And for the number of
what?
lessons being,
Right.
you know.
Still
No,
less.
and I don't know if because it includes all the tier 2 and all the tier 3 resources, whereas like Character Strong, you have to purchase those additional. If you want tier 2,
Good.
access to tier 2
Sure.
lessons, you have to purchase that in addition. So I don't know if that was a factor in that price or not.
Okay.
So,
And this was shockingly not the highest price tag that we saw.
yeah, so the ones on the other list, we just immediately crossed them off.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
worth investigating because
Yeah.
the price was
$40,000.
Yeah.
$40,000.
Oh my goodness.
A year?
A year.
not for lifetime, that's a year. We were like, who would we shocked? We were shocked.
They don't even send someone in to do it for us. For that project.
Yeah, no.
Once a week, we get a person that comes in and does it in our school.
Yeah, that's a salary, I mean,
Right.
Alright, and then, yeah, we can go on to the last one. So then the last one we looked at was purposeful people, and this is the one that is connected to what we use at the middle school, which is Character Strong. It's a separate curriculum, it's different than theirs, but it's similar to them in that it's branched under that same company. So this one, it is $2,700 a school year for the first year, but after that it does go down to $1,999 per school per year. So the subsequent years we get that discount. This one has 36 to 40 lessons, depending on if you wanna do the kindness kickoffs and kindness closures that are included. So this one gives us a lot of that wiggle room that we're looking for. We really could do every single lesson, or we could cut some out really easily, and we'd have a whole school year's worth of material, which is really nice. This breaks down into 3 main areas of social skills, executive functioning, and emotional regulation, but then those break down even further into character traits. So we're looking at respect, responsibility, gratitude, cooperation, courage, creativity, things like that, and we spend 4 weeks on each of those different character traits, kind of digging into different areas of those and how to become a really well-rounded person who's prepared for the future and going on into a career, and whatever that may be. Our rationale for this one thing we love about it is the idea of a common language for not only our whole school, but also moving onwards towards the middle school. We think it could really bolster their program to have something similar at the elementary schools, because it would just allow for the continuation of those skills to grow throughout all the way up until 8th grade, until they go to high school. There's also a lot more opportunity in this one for whole school implementation, so while we do have lessons that we would do in their guidance classes, there are a lot of little things that could be done as a whole school in like an assembly. We could have, there'd be things to do where, like this month we're talking about gratitude, so we're doing something as a whole school to celebrate gratitude. And then there are also things that can be done really easily as morning meetings in the classrooms, things like that, so the teachers could also continue to work on these skills within their own classroom. Again, working on that district-wide alignment and the number of lessons for us, this one really gave us a lot to work with in terms of what we do wanna work with, what we don't wanna work with, and be able to fill our whole schedule, which would be really nice.
So I know that you had mentioned that it, obviously that feeds into the Character Strong. How do the counselors like the Character Strong curriculum at the middle school?
It's a good
Would they be
question.
excited about this, like?
So we've talked to them about it, and
Okay.
it is something that they are excited about because they think it would help a lot. The teachers are the ones teaching this at the middle school, so it's not the counselors. But they do feel that sometimes it feels like the kids come in and it's like, this is the first they're hearing all of this, this is the first time they're interacting with this program. So having this, they feel would help because they come in with some of that base knowledge already. They've heard a lot of the terminology before, they've practiced looking at these exact character traits over and over in different ways every year. So then by the time they're getting to that 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they are really understanding it, and it's more, now we're practicing it, now we're, honing in on these skills, not just learning them for the first time.
Right. That's good news.
So Riverside and Valley View, you guys have your own curriculum right now, right? Like you have your own
No, we're all using Second Step right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're all using Second Step.
Gotcha. Cause I remember Scott Walter saying, like a year ago, that they have their own created. I thought they had maybe I misunderstood, but based off of Castle, but it was a couple years ago, but. Okay, very good, then scratch that. I guess maybe what I'd say is, as a counselor, elements you want, and so you're looking at this curriculum, so you can kind of modify, develop, you're looking for the missing stuff, right? Like
Yes.
where there's holes, and then could you develop your own plan or to fill in or, supplement?
Well, I mean, I would say like right now, we kind of have to supplement with
Yeah.
like career education.
Gotcha.
Because not, like Second Step has nothing to do with careers, and careers is a really important piece to teach kids about like, these are different career choices you could have in the future, these are what career skills are, right? So we right now already kind of have to do that with like that focus.
So do you have like an agreed upon set curriculum for that, or
I
is
mean,
that
there-
something down the road?
I mean, that's kind of more down, there aren't
probably
really a lot
have
of
it,
career,
it's just need to
like-
pin it down.
like curriculums, there's not
Yeah.
a lot of career ones.
Well, and
But lesson wise, I mean, we kind of do pretty much the same thing.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like it's almost like your own developed curriculum.
Ideally, what we want, and we've talked about this before, is ideally what we want is to have a uniform experience for the kids.
Yes.
Regardless of what school they're at. So it's gonna be critical for them to figure out what are the lessons each one of them does. They're gonna have to align to one another, we can't have one K2 and one 3-5 doing something different.
Yes.
That's not good for kids.
Yeah.
So I think the benefit of some of them, and again, like coming back to that one with 28, that's gonna be a stretch, cause we're gonna be able to make a lot more curriculum there, but again, we wanted to make sure we included it because it's a viable option compared to some of the other ones. So I think as we look at the ones with 30s and 36 and 37 and even some of the extended ones, the benefit is, here's a whole lot. You don't need this, you don't need that, if you don't agree with this, you don't agree with that, we pull it. And we start doing whatever we need to do for our kids at each one of the buildings, but aligning it by grade level. So that's the nice part about, like, for example, that
Yes.
purposeful people, you know, we've got an overabundance of information that we don't necessarily need. Because when we look at all the external stuff that we have to, that we're required to teach kids at that age, we need to have extra time built into the schedule for it. And I just keep coming back to the statute for the safety, you know, the children's safety part. We have to have that time allotted for it. Careers is a nice feed too, because again, you want the kids to start to get a feel for what it is they wanna do, aside from being a teacher, a fireman, or a lawyer, or whatever.
Or mommy.
Or mom, you know. So we wanna give them some sort of introduction to it, because at the middle school, that is gonna be part of the plan, is a transition more towards a career, right? About halfway through 6th grade, 7th grade.
Another thing I think I would be looking at too is like, how the social emotional learning curriculum is being, interpreted or, communicated to parents. Like, how do you make that connection so you loop them in, cause you would have them buying in at home, you know, then everybody's speaking the same language and everybody can reinforce
Yeah.
behaviors and all of that.
And I do think that all of the curriculums that we have looked at include family letters for
Okay.
almost every single lesson topic or topic. So
Okay.
every single time we're moving on to a new topic, we
Yeah.
could send that lesson, that family letter home with kids, and it says, hey, this is what your kid is learning about in guidance for the next X amount of weeks.
Okay.
This is the trait they're learning about, this is the topic they're learning about, this is how they're learning it, how they're applying it, things you can do at home. And that's something that we really want to be better about in the future, because it's something that they don't have as good of a hold on it in Second Step,
Okay.
is that family
Yeah.
connection piece.
Yeah, sure.
It's there, but it's not
It's
as
very
in
detailed
depth as
and
we'd
it's just,
like.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like a one pager
Yeah.
from
So at the beginning
when
of
it
the
was
year.
all, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And they do have a code, like they give parents access to the
Yeah.
online second
Not
step.
No, the digital does
No,
not.
Second Step does not have that.
But I mean, that's
But
one of
like,
the
is
things
that
like,
family portal for
Yeah.
Move This World, would that
Yeah.
be something where?
Yeah.
well, that's just,
kind
that was one nice thing
Okay.
about that one is, you know, the family portal has access to like resources that they can print and use, but it also had like discussion questions, things
Right.
that just parents maybe would wanna look at, access to look at some of the lessons or videos that were discussed.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean, it would make it a lot easier to have that carryover at home.
Yeah, and we would
Does
love that.
Purposeful People have something similar?
I believe it does. I'm meeting with them
Okay.
on Friday as a follow-up because I knew that things would come up today that I was like, you know, we should figure more out about that. So that is
Yeah.
one thing that I can double check on is what exactly that family piece looks like, but I know that they have some element of family connection. I don't know if it's as in-depth as what
Sure.
Move This World does, but they have something.
Sounds good.
Yes, I have a question on the Move This World and Wayfinder. I see that because they're more expensive, they also have access to the tier, two and 1, 2, 3. How important is that for you?
I mean, I personally would really like it because right now that we don't really have like tier 2 curriculums, tier 3 curriculums. So if something comes up, it's kind of like a scramble to try to quickly find like what is something I can use that is evidence-based or, like that is actually proven to be beneficial to use with a student. And so to have something that's just like readily there if I need it, or if any other pupil service member would need something like that. I think that would be a huge benefit. But also, I know for Move This World, the rep, when we were talking with him, he said like a lot of the lessons in there too can also be utilized in like classroom settings or with just like one-on-one individuals, like they're very easy to adapt. So, I mean, I think that would just, give us more material should we need it.
Do you have parameters already in place that determine tier 2, tier 3?
So like if we get certain times a year, we'll get a lot of write-ups on the playground. And all of a sudden it's like,
Gotcha.
you know what, we're gonna pull these 3 kids because they continually have issues at recess and we're gonna do some work with them. That's where those tier 2 resources might come in handy. But we do look at our write-up data to help determine that.
How do you determine between 2 and 3? Is it like a bunch of
It's just like
stuff?
academics,
A
right,
bunch of
where
criteria.
universal is what all the kids get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tier 2 is what, a small
Small
group might
group.
get to get a little, and then the tier
Gotcha.
3 is like typically one-on-one,
Gotcha.
student that
And usually it's due to more volume,
Yeah.
repeat, part of that progressive discipline comes.
And sometimes too, we might have a parent, reach out that asks,
Yeah.
and so a lot of times if it's a parent referral for a specific skill, then I'll try to do it like one-on-one.
Yeah.
I just think that's more comfortable for the student and then also like for family confidentiality purposes.
Mhm.
But sometimes too, like if a couple families reach out or if we're seeing a need, like I'll reach out to families and say, hey, we're gonna be starting a small group with this focus, can we have your permission for your child to participate? And then that's when we could utilize, like a tier 2 lesson in a
And
setting.
this kind of ties into some of the training that we're gonna be doing for multi-layer systems of support, but it also is part of what they're ahead of the game on, which is SSTs, which are student service teams. So or student support teams, when you look at where they're at right now with the process, it's very, very set for what a kid might need. So besides just, kid needs extra food or needs extra time on homework, they go in depth on other things they need. So it would be nice to have those things available too, because it also helps for educating not just teachers, but administrators on it. This is something we could try with this kid that has a little more need than everybody else.
Do you think you'd be utilizing the tier 2 option? And it's just because I know I brought up the price.
Yeah.
But I am willing to, I would be willing to, pay it if
Make the
if that,
investment,
if
if
that's the
that's
investment
something
that is,
Yeah.
beneficial and that's something that we would benefit the students.
And I think some of that we can speak better to once we've like really had a chance to see it, right? Like it's nice to see really what they offer you before saying like this is worth our money or this is not.
I mean, like I would like to say I would probably utilize it a lot, but yeah, like you said, until I actually
Yeah.
see what see what it looks like and
Yeah.
maybe
And
try
work with
implementing
it.
1 or 2 and
Yeah.
see how the kids like relate to it as well, how they
Yeah.
respond.
So
Yeah.
what
Those are all good questions.
I didn't bring my old notes, but what is the timeline for things? What are you foreseeing or have we not defined that completely yet?
So basically, we're kind of waiting to get the rest of the information from the reps, but ultimately, we'd like to have this thing pretty sewn up by the end of May. So that when we roll in, and actually I'd try to say the first or second week of May,
To like pilot, you mean?
to have the pilots done,
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
information ready
Yeah.
to go, so that we can actually come forward around that time before the end of the school year and say, here's what we recommend.
So you're gonna determine your pilot for May to.
Oh, no, we're gonna determine the pilot ahead of time, but I'd like to have a decision, we'd like to be done with a decision made by May.
Yeah, I think we're hoping to pilot in April.
Yes.
So are you looking tonight for the go ahead to
Yeah,
pilot
that's kind of-
the
I think
three?
pilot
I think that's
phase
what we
3
talked about
would be
I think
ideal.
that's what they're hoping for tonight.
And we have reached out to all companies about piloting, and all of the piloting we would do would be free of cost. There's no cost associated with piloting for any of the 3 programs that we've looked into.
Oh, that's nice.
Mhm.
One of the other things.
Is that enough time? Is that a common amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, because we're in the classroom, well, we're in each classroom
Yeah.
at least, I mean,
Yeah.
well, not at least, we're in each classroom once a week.
Plus it's just you doing it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, us doing it
Right.
right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's different
It's
from some
different
of
when
the
it's
other
different
piloting
teachers.
things we have.
Yeah, for sure.
Multiple teachers in multiple schools
Yeah.
trying different things. This is,
Yeah.
these four ladies doing this themselves in the classroom on a regular basis. It's a much easier process.
It is. It's a quicker
Yeah.
process.
One of the, we had talked about this too, one of the other nice things about this is we were able to cover probably the first year in implementation with grant funding. Once we get it in, if we can get that purchase again before July 1, so that's another nice
Even
benefit.
the most expensive one.
Yeah, even that one, yeah, even that one. Just the first year probably, but
Yeah,
let's see how
but
that,
is it in
let's see how the
budget?
grant goes.
It's
I mean,
doable.
I believe so, yes, I think we have to have a little
You
more cover
hesitated,
strength.
you
Yeah.
hesitated.
That's
Well,
right,
when you think-
that's
When you think
true.
of like a curriculum adoption over a 5-year process of $25,000.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of looking at it from the long term,
Much
Yeah.
less expensive than the things I
Yeah.
brought forward.
Right.
considering it covers
Yeah.
K-5.
And I have just one more question, I know this, cause I honestly don't know the answer to it. So looking at this in the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 options, so if you were to, for example, go with the purposeful people where they don't necessarily offer that as part of that initial.
Yeah.
Is there other curriculum out there that you could say, you know, purchase a bundle that might be like a supplemental to that you would prefer over something that's included with it? Or consistency wise, we're thinking if it's all in one.
Well, I think the nice piece, if it's all in one, is that you're also then having that common language carried through to the small groups. So it's like they're not just getting it in the universal setting, but then they're also getting that same language versus, remember how in class we talked about this? It's kind of like that, but we're gonna call it this in here.
Yeah,
You know, like-
that makes sense.
Yeah, so having that commonality would be huge.
Yeah, and you can purchase that tier 2 alone because the Purposeful People has all these bundles you can buy. But you can also just purchase their tier 2 curriculum separate from the digital curriculum if you want. I can't remember exactly how much that costs.
Sure.
And
But
they're
it's not like you have to buy the whole bundle that they offer
And I would
online
just
to
be
get it.
curious if we, you know, when we come back after looking at apples to apples, if that's something that you
Right.
wanna see the full picture and you wanna get tier 1 and tier 2, then we should probably,
And like everything in
I say we,
education,
but you.
everything's negotiable. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
nice, I mean, we're dealing with businesses that deal with education.
Yep.
And we're also negotiators, so,
And they kinda know,
yeah,
yeah.
a pretty good idea for Mark.
rhythm. Okay.
Alright.
Well, thanks for putting up with that question.
No,
I know.
yeah, questions,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions or things to point out?
Yeah.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know how the process works, so I guess like, when do we know if we can start piloting or when would we?
Good question.
So, yes, I think,
Amy knows the drill.
yes, so unless you have any concerns, I think,
Yeah, there's no real approval that's needed.
no,
Okay.
it's
But
just, we like, are there
we
any
appreciate
concerns?
the
If
Yeah.
not,
Perfect.
then,
Yeah.
I do think we always try to get access for board members.
Yeah, perfect, we can do that.
So that they can,
Yeah.
peruse those.
advance, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can make sure to do
great,
that.
you can have links and
Yeah.
look at stuff, but I love that you're doing 3. I think that's important to have that third.
And even coming in
Yeah,
with ones that
and
we
sort of
think
all
are
the
the third
partners
place, you never know, sometimes you get
Right.
surprised.
Mhm.
So it's worth a look.
And this is the time to do it, right? To start looking at things and trying it out.
And in the background, Amy and I will be coordinating too, is like when feel like, hey, we're in a pretty good spot, and we'll be getting all the connections done too for timeframes and setting up like final approvals or anything.
Right, cause yes, we will wanna bring it back for
Yes.
final,
Yeah.
final approval.
Okay,
And
well,
yep, and these look like pretty good choices to start with, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Parent communication look like?
Oh yeah, for piloting.
Yeah.
We can
Oh.
provide you with some sample letters
Okay,
that
okay.
we've used for content areas, just so you can see what that looks like.
Yeah,
You do let parents know ahead of time
Yes.
Yep.
that we're piloting a new curriculum, here it is. You
Yeah.
can see, a version of it on
Okay.
this digital link.
Yep, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
Right, those would be great, thank you.
And yeah, so it's all digital, right? Like all of it is?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah, I know you said the workbooks and stuff, but okay, yeah, that's
Alright.
great.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, thank you so much, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Shorter than the
Have a
last.
good supper.
Yeah, right.
Cheers to a Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi.
I got the real.
All right, very good. So moving right along, we'll head to elementary, K-5 through 5th grade.
So we're at the middle-ish point of this social studies class, so just kind of wanted to tell you kind of some updates about where we're at and stuff that has happened
Okay,
and then where we're on our way to. So we'll just give a quick refresher of the general pilot, just because it's been a while since we were before you. Timeline
You guys
update.
remember Angie?
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry.
Yes.
And we're doing
Angie said,
social
you know,
studies
yeah.
pilot review.
We're back.
We're back, yeah.
First grade is right there.
And then we'll talk about our next steps. So the two resources that were being piloted were Impact, which is by McGraw-Hill, and Social Studies Alive, which is by TCI. We did change that pilot structure just to refresh your memory, has its pros and cons, but we just didn't wanna overload, there's just a lot on everyone's plate right now, so this we thought was a better strategy to use this time around, so we have 2 teachers per grade level, 1 per resource. And they're all teaching at least 1 complete unit. So they can kind of see the unit from start to finish, how they launch a unit and how they wrap it up at the end with that like kind of inquiry project at the end. The timeline, we've stuck to it, we haven't had to make any shifts or anything like that, so and again, like it always still feels like you wish you had more time, but we have to stop at some point to make decisions, so our timeline we've stuck to that. And then the way we've been gathering information, this first slide, this is the teachers. We have been sending weekly surveys. We try to have them kind of quick because they're weekly. We don't want to bog everyone down too much, but we have those. We pulled out those things that we said were important to us in a resource for social studies topics, and those are the things we have them giving feedback on. And then that has helped us to gather some insight to the implementation and how that's going. It has helped us to like answer questions. It has helped us when we did kind of Nina will speak a little bit, we had like a comparison day, and then we can kind of use what they're noticing to draw attention to certain things or address certain things that are coming up, and it just kind of helps us along the way so that we're not all of a sudden at the end getting that information and finding out, oh, whoa, there were some missteps here or some misunderstandings or whatever. So we're collecting that weekly data and kind of starting to compile some of that. So that's what we're collecting from teachers weekly.
Yep, so what Angie just spoke to is like that weekly check-in, and then we also were able to reach out to each of the vendors depending on if some questions came up or clarifications were needed, so that was good, just to have that kind of weekly check-in with them. Another way we've been gathering feedback is through observations, and so Angie and I, all 6 administrators, Amy, everybody's got a schedule of who's piloting and what they're piloting and when social studies instruction is happening and is trying to get in, and we're trying to kind of get the most clear picture we can in those areas, so when you were in thinking about the learning, the engagement, the general ease of use is not that it's easy, but the usability, the flow, and on the part of the teacher and the student. You wouldn't want a resource that is great but can't be navigated. So it's important that we can pick it up and use it in our classrooms. So we're looking at that. Learning targets and rigor, the inquiry model is an important component. Learning new vocabulary we know is critical. And then the components that are available technology-wise. And it might be on the part of students, it might be on the part of the teacher, it might be both. And sometimes it's not either. Sometimes a lesson, you're not utilizing technology. So as we go in, just trying to get as many of those observations in each class, and we compile that data, gathering on a Google form.
And I think those observations have been interesting paired with the teacher piece, because sometimes the teachers, they're in the thick of it and they're, kind of going through the lessons, and as a fly on the wall, we can sometimes notice things or point things out that they're like, oh, I didn't even realize that. We're like, yeah, because you're busy, managing the behaviors and looking through the manual and we're just are able to kind of sit back and take those things in. So kind of pairing those two things is always cool and beneficial, and so that's been really nice to pair those two types of feedback.
Then another layer is the actual evaluation. So there is a full evaluation that of all these various components, and then based on the criteria established. So within each of those bullets, there's multiple descriptors that you would look for as you're evaluating. So that full evaluation, we asked pilot teachers to collect their notes and observations week to week, and then at the midpoint, complete that full evaluation where they're really rating it in each area. And then as you'll see in a couple slides, we'll have them complete that again. So that's 2 times during the pilot. So that's a lot more detailed and thorough, and actually an evaluation where the other one was more of a touch base and a check-in. Then we had a resource comparison meeting, so that just took place last week.
Wednesday.
Oh, 1 week ago, today's. Alright, so here's where we had each, for example, each third grade teacher, one with impact, one with TCI side by side, and we used those areas to have them really dive in. Okay, you're teaching just unit 4, but now zoom out to the full scope and sequence of the whole third grade year. What are the units? What are the topics? Are they the same? Is there a variance? So they were really side by side, compare, contrast, and then we move to the next area. Really dig into the student learning targets in connection with those standards. Now move to the next area. So they were actually touching, showing, modeling, demonstrating in their resource. Because we had the difference in the pilot structure, where you didn't have a colleague in your building across the hall that you could compare and contrast with on a much more, practically daily basis. So this was their opportunity to do that in each of those areas.
And that was, we kind of talked about if you're just in your own resource, you think it's okay, but then you might see this other one go, oh, well, that's really okay. That makes this look not as strong, or vice versa, like, I thought this feels okay, but I don't really know. And then you see the other one, you're like, actually, this is way stronger than that, but you can't do that. So we really had to intentionally plan a good period of time and guiding them through those things, because it's, like Nina mentioned, that was the challenge in the way we structured it. I'm glad we structured it that way, but that was the challenge, and that's how we met that challenge, is through this type of a meeting.
So that was another layer of building knowledge, gathering more information. So ultimately, we'll pull all the pieces of the puzzle together. So that's kind of where we've been so far. Upcoming, like I spoke to, they'll complete their final evaluation. They will get feedback from students and their experience, just like we've done with other resources. Survey will go out to families that they can share what they've noticed or what their students have come home talking about. Teachers will send home work that they've completed, whether it was their project or workbook pages, so that they can also see the resource that their child has been using at school. So we'll bring all those pieces of the puzzle together so that on March 20th, we can come to consensus as our full team and bring a recommendation to you in April.
Anecdotally, is there any consensus or feedback you've given so far?
Well, I kind of don't want to say what it is, if that's okay, because my fear is that then people will start saying this is what they want, and we haven't talked to parents at all yet, and we haven't really started, so I really want to stay true to that. We are starting to see some differences as we're trying to put quantitative numbers, which is why you do some of those surveys, because you can quantify some of that. And then when we get to that consensus meeting, then we have some clear, and we can kind of remove, because there's feelings involved too, and we can kind of look at, but what's best for the kids and
There's teaching styles and learning
oh my gosh,
styles.
for sure, yes. Yeah, so
And they're in their
is that an okay answer?
unit right now in their grade.
Because in reviewing, previous curriculum, I saw a stark difference, because what we did was we just chose a grade and we took one of each.
Yeah,
To compare between both pilots, and so
Very different.
I noticed a big difference.
We do,
And so-
there are big differences.
Yeah, like that, the TCI has the book in Spanish, so I thought, oh, that's actually interesting, a lot of the time we workbook in Spanish.
Impact is too, they have Impacto, so they have full
Impacto
Spanish.
Spanish, yeah.
Was it in the, I don't think we.
Wasn't it in those?
We,
It wasn't in my box.
It wasn't in my box.
But
Yeah,
I
what
think
did
the
we have to
teacher
look up?
resource for impact seemed a lot more robust, but yes.
Anyways,
So,
okay,
yeah,
so
we're
that's
not-
what I
If you
And those are
wanted to
things that
see the
they're
Spanish,
noticing.
we
Oh, yeah.
certainly could. Our EL rep on the team, we don't have Spanish as our large population of students in EL, so I don't think she was thinking that would really be a need to have it fully in another language. But they do have the ability to, through Google Translate in the platform,
Yes.
written and I believe the oral text when you do the read aloud, I think.
Yeah, there was that bar on the top, you
Yeah.
could change it just the
And it was,
languages,
yeah, I
just-
don't remember how much, I'd have to look back. It
Yeah, I don't
was-
remember how it works either.
Do you
It
look
was
at,
a lot of
if
languages.
it, do you look at if it can be modified for like any special ed needs or things like that?
There are, both of those resources have scaffolding, like the
Right.
recommended things for scaffolding, recommended for like words that you might pre-teach. One of them has like a full spread of English language suggestions, and some of those I'm like, I would use this for all. And there are a lot of times, some of the suggestions are really solid for all students, especially because I think we are gonna have, because we haven't had a very robust or rigorous social studies curriculum, I think we're gonna have some gaps, so that was the piece we just are gonna have to accept that, and we will do our best, and we know that kids are gonna be coming now with more consistent, again, it was similar to what these ladies were saying too, or with ELA or even with guidance, that common experience for all of our students using, words and concepts, and we know exactly what they'll be coming with to the next grade level, but there will be a little bit of a learning curve. But we know, I think through our ELA, we will have some strategies that have been successful and ones that haven't, so we can lean on some of that and how we might, this is a way easier, nothing's easy, I hate using the word easy, it's not gonna be easy, but it's a different lift than our ELA, with elementary social studies.
Good, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So, yes.
Time and effort, and it
Short
sounds
and
like everything is, falling in line and you're on track and.
We're getting the hang of this,
Angie and I.
I think that is one thing we were reflecting on with a couple of the curriculum and learning coaches today is we have now a finely honed process, and now we're talking about how can some of our curriculum chairs help us learn that process and take some of that lift too, because these ladies in particular have gotten very good at the process, regardless of the content.
Science pilot,
Okay,
my god.
Yeah.
It feels like we've been doing so many pilots.
I know, we do lots of pilots, we always have something in the mix, so. But thank you, thank you.
Yeah. We'll be back.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll see
so
you. Alrighty,
Alright.
sixth grade social studies text.
Yes, thank you,
The mystery one.
mystery,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm like, it's not me. I could talk about it.
Yeah, so if you remember last year when we did our social studies pilot, we knew and we in our adoption
Right.
of the National Geographic's Engage materials for middle school,
Mhm.
we purchased the sixth grade books, and that was new to us, but we knew they were coming out with a new version this year.
Okay.
And so we said at the time that we would have that book that we adopted and that you saw, but that we would also bring forward, the teachers wanted to bring forward that new book when it was available. And so it is so hot off the press that I have one set at the school, now and by set I mean one student edition and one teacher edition. And I have one teacher edition and one student edition here, and then we also have digital access available.
Okay.
So what we would like to do, and I know. It was like super hot off the press, but I did have our middle school curricular chair and our lead kind of sixth grade teacher who teaches a lot of this at sixth grade to take a very quick look at first glance at the book and tell me a little bit about what they noticed as shifts. So the structure's been redesigned, making it much more similar to the new 7th and 8th grade books that we currently have now. With their chapter outlines, they have some different differentiation strategies. They have what they call on their feet activities, so opportunities for kids to move around, guided discussion questions. The order of what is taught as far as the chapters have shifted a little bit. And about half the lessons seem to have new titles or updated information. Even the lessons that were unchanged have some new content. And of course, this is physical and human geography around the world, so there, as well as historical references. So there are changes in country borders, styles of government, imports, exports, just to update the content of what's current. So, but otherwise, generally very similar to what the old new book was, the book, the older version, but it was new to us.
Right.
So, they would love for you to take a look.
Okay.
And if possible, bring this